On a stormy night, thugs Morris and Arnold crashed their vehicle in a tree when Monkey Lord Tiki and his sidekick Babu forced them to swerve off the road on the mountain. And a yellow suitcase slides out of the wreck. Meanwhile, Logger Vic put his new lumbering tools to test, spooking the Bear brothers Briar and Bramble into pursuit and successfully steal the tool crate from Vic. Morris and Arnold scramble to recover the case, but are steamrolled by the bears who confuse them with Vic. With his tools destroyed by the bears as well, Vic ends up taking the other suitcase before savagely beating the criminals, believing they are the bears. Vic and the bears then return to their respective homes. On the next day, Vic discovers that a baby Elena bear suit was inside instead of his tools. Noticing she was kidnapped from a police alert on TV, he set off to find the authorities and return her. The baby's interference causes Vic's pickup to behave erratically, alerting a police officer and getting the truck stuck. After freeing his vehicle with a scarecrow and securing her with tape, he was mistaken as the culprit by the officer pursuing him. Attempting to explain his circumstances and cut off the tape, the baby bites Vic, who inadvertently launches his knife into the officer. Now a wanted criminal, Vic barely escapes pursuit in his slightly crippled vehicle. Enraged by the trouble she warranted, Vic seals his house and angrily scolds her for trashing his place. Instead of silencing the baby, her cries penetrate the entire forest. He later successfully pacifies her with a water gun, and learns her nickname, Lola, while washing her suit. Gradually, he becomes a fatherly figure to her. On a bicycle, Vic sets off to procure supplies for Lola when they are running short, only to be arrested by the officer. Morris and Arnold happen to be illegally attaching missing person posters nearby in an effort to find Lola. Stopping to warn them, the officer is knocked out by the duo and they steal his patrol car. In the ensuing scuffle, Vic sneaks away undetected. Suspecting Vic in possession of threatening gizmos, Briar invades Vic's house with Bramble. But the mission goes off course when Bramble insists on acquiring food instead. While they empty Vic's stash, Lola almost reveals herself to Briar, who has jump-scared several times. Unable to determine the cause nor convince Bramble, Lola sneaks into Bramble's bag and the brothers depart. At their treehouse, after Bramble almost mistakes her for an apple, the bears were confused and terrified by her appearance, having almost zero contact with humans other than Vic. They warm up to each other quickly and begin to hang out. Vic, who was devastated when he discovers his house ransacked by bears, was relieved to have Lola gone. His past animosity against them gets the better of him in a nightmare, and he storms off to rescue her, unaware of the events occurred in his absence. The bears and Vic have a tense standoff and brief scuffle inside the tree while Lola suddenly succumbs to a fever, forcing Vic to rush her home. The brothers attempt to help Vic also, with Bramble inadvertently thwarting Morris and Arnold. After repeated failures, Arnold and Morris, unseen employer, decides to take matters into his own hands. Vic and the bears come to an alliance with Lola's presence as the three constantly organize activities to entertain her, with the former even constructing an aerial bicycle while the bears follow them around in Vic's truck. Soon, mercenaries appear and attempt to capture Lola. While Vic attempts to dodge them, Briar and Bramble make use of their pyrotechnics and appropriate enemy equipment to fight them off, with Briar even indirectly incinerating a hostile blimp. Despite their best efforts, Vic and Lola were knocked out, snagged by Morris and Arnold. The bears notice the stolen police car driving away and follow them in Vic's abandoned bike. Vic was taken to the headquarters of a corporate enterprise, where their leader reveals himself as the mastermind behind Lola's disappearance. Lola was an orphan adopted by his deceased father, his predecessor. He desires to reclaim the inheritance passed to Lola, having sensed the fortune sealed in a vault only unlocked by her. Morris and Arnold were amongst many working for him. Lola ends up tearing off his toupee, and Vic mocks him for being bald. Briar and Bramble, having pursued the thugs to company grounds, sneak into a nearby warehouse. While mostly silent, the brothers accidentally alert a group of armed guards playing mahjong and barely survive the ensuing pursuit under gunfire. Defeating them with disguises and a do-it, the bears discover Vic and Lola's location. Briar sends Bramble to alert the authorities, and a nearby crane catches his eye. Bramble smashes the wrecking ball and Briar into the building, then slides down to assist. The CEO, Morris and Arnold flee, leaving the bodyguards to stop the trio. Vic frees himself, and the bears easily pummel their opposition. Briar, Vic and Bramble pursue them to a catwalk. Briar seizes Morris, but the CEO retakes Lola by collapsing the bridge in an active turbine. Morris escapes, and Arnold threatens to kill Briar if they approach. Using Briar's aerial advantage point in the turbine's winds keeping him airborne, Vic gets Bramble to launch himself. With the help of air currents fueling his spin, Briar viciously throws Vic at Morris and Arnold, defeating them instantly. The CEO eventually reaches the vault, tricking Lola into unlocking its digital security measures with her hands. However, he is frustrated when he finds nothing but his legacy items from his youth and a letter from his father to Lola. The trio storm the vault, and while the boss makes his escape on a reinforced elevator, Briar finds a window of opportunity to advance. Still in disbelief, the CEO flees in a helicopter. Briar and Bramble grapple onto its landing skids, with Vic catching up by pole vaulting. In the cabin, Lola messes with the controls, and the chopper flies erratically, forcing the three to also dodge various hazards and eventually storm the vehicle. The bear's weight causes the aircraft to tilt, and Vic jumps out to save Lola, while Bramble and Briar grab him, holding on to the left axis. In order to rid the intruders, the CEO activates autopilot but fails to evict Briar due to the latter's extreme mass. As they approach a chimney, at Vic's urging, they all bail and land a flea in a towering industrial water tank moments before the collision. The CEO, having survived and clinging on a parachute, swears revenge at them but was cornered by a group of responding officers. With the true mastermind imprisoned and Lola rescued, Vic was exonerated and declared a hero for his part, with everyone returning to their normal lives, though he remains confused to the chain of events that occurred. Disturbed by his boss Mr. Eli in a snowy morning, an irritated Vic promises to continue supplying timber. As he hangs up, Vic discovers a parcel mailed to his doorstep. Inside, he discovers various repaired items, photographs of Lola with the old man who adopted her, as well the reconstructed letter, in which he proclaims her importance to him as he was dying. Just when Vic finishes the letter with a tear to his eye, he was delighted to see the bears bringing Lola in celebration of the Chinese New Year.